Okay, we're going to talk about secure transactions and personal property, which means we're going to be looking at Article 9 of the Uniform Commercial Code. The first thing that we're going to look at is attachment of a security interest. Here you're going to be dealing with collateral, and there's going to be a debtor creditor, and the creditor has loaned money and is concerned that there may not be payment by the debtor, but this time there's not a surety or guarantor. Instead, there is collateral that the creditor has taken an interest in. And if it's a secured interest, then that means attachment has occurred, but the creditor has taken an interest in the collateral such that if the debtor does not pay the debt or the loan, the creditor has that interest and can, under certain circumstances, uh, repossess the collateral or at the very least sell the collateral and apply it to the loan. But there's certain things that have to happen in order for the creditor to do that. The first thing is attachment. And attachment creates a security interest or a secured interest. And there are three things that are required for attachment. You have to have a security agreement, and that identifies the parties. It also contains a reasonable description of the collateral, and collateral has to be personal property. It identifies the party's intent that the creditor will have a secured interest in that personal property and describes the debt and is signed or authenticated by the buyer. Also, value is given. Money is given as a loan or something is delivered on credit. That is value. And the debtor has rights in the collateral. Ownership interest can be the right, such as title or possession of the goods. Once you have attachment, you have a secured interest. And in the security agreement that is written, it has the signature of the debtor, it describes the collateral, and also has an intent to create the security interest that is noted in the writing. The secured agreement or security agreement can be oral if the creditor keeps possession of the collateral. And again, with value, it could be that the creditor previously gave a loan, or it could be a loan being given or something being sold on credit. And then the debtor has an interest in the collateral. There's also what's called a purchase money security interest. And what that means is the seller is actually taking a secured interest in what is being purchased. So the seller is either giving a loan or is allowing something to be purchased on credit, and then what is being purchased is actually also the collateral. So an example would be a computer that's purchased on credit for personal use, which would be that's an example. A consumer good would be for personal use, and the seller takes the security interest in what's purchased, the computer. So the purchase money security interest does not have to be a consumer good, which is for personal use, but it can be. It could also be for equipment. But a purchase money security interest is when whatever is the collateral, the seller or the person who is loaning the money, the creditor, is taking an interest in what is being purchased. So let's look at an example, and we'll determine whether a security interest in the television has occurred. Practice problem 1. Jamie wants to purchase a large screen television set for personal use from ABC Television Inc. The purchase price is $2,500. Not being able to pay in cash, Jamie signs a security agreement to pay $100 per month. until the balance plus interest is paid. After signing the security agreement, Jamie takes the television home. Has ABC security interest in the television attached? Give the legal justification for your response. So if you're looking for the three elements, and what you're looking for with those three elements is you are looking for the actual security agreement, which we said there was a security agreement. You're looking for the debtor having an interest in the collateral, and Jamie signed the security agreement. She also had an interest or had rights in the collateral. She took the TV home. And then you have value. She's purchasing it on credit. Collateral can be classified in these categories. It can be classified based on its use. If it's being used for personal consumption, it's a consumer good. If it's being used as part of a business, it is actually equipment. If it's going to be resold, it would be classified as inventory. So it depends on the purpose. The same type of or the same collateral can be classified in either of these. So a computer that is used for my personal consumption would be a consumer good. A computer that is going to be used to help me run a business or to do work at A&T would be equipment, and if I was going to resell a computer, would be inventory in a business. So, and farm products would be crops or livestock or supplies used or produced in farming, but I would not worry so much about that one. Once you have a secured interest, the creditor is called a secured creditor. But that's not the best place to be. You're really what's called an unperfected secured creditor. That means that you have, if the debtor does not pay you as the creditor, you can, if you have a secured interest in the collateral, as to the debtor, you have priority, which means you have a superior interest in that collateral. But what happens if the debtor has used the same collateral with different creditors? There may be a fight. So you don't want to stop with secured interest. You want to be a perfected secured creditor if possible. So perfection is something to think about. And a creditor who obtains a perfected security interest has priority over unsecured creditors. So when you have a perfected secured creditor, that perfected secured creditor would have priority over the collateral or a greater interest over the collateral than just a secured creditor or even an unsecured creditor. The unsecured. Okay, the ways to perfect. One way is if the creditor keeps the collateral. If the creditor holds on to the collateral, the creditor can perfect through possession. Also, if you have a PMSI, a purchase money security interest in a consumer good, perfection happens automatically once you have the three elements of attachment. And the other way is to file a financing statement. If you file a financing statement, a proper financing statement that is not seriously misleading, that will be another way of perfecting. So in perfecting by filing, the financing statement is a document. It contains the name of the debtor, the name of the secured party, and also the description of the collateral. And it's filed usually in a public place. If there is a small defect, usually that's really not enough to make the filing improper, but usually you're looking for it to be seriously misleading. So if it's seriously misleading, It's something that if you were to search, you could not tell that the perfection has actually occurred. So, an example of that may be not using the proper name of a debtor in your financing statement, such that a party that was searched could not tell that that was the debtor. Okay, so this is just looking at here filing a financing statement, and where you file depends on the type of collateral. Practice problem 2. Jamie wants to purchase a new large screen television set for personal use from ABC Television. The purchase price is $2,500 and she can't pay, so she signs a security agreement to pay $100 per month until the balance is paid. The question is, has ABC security interest been perfected? So she's using this for personal use. That means it's a consumer good. And remember, we had all 3 elements of attachment here. And the security interest is being taken in what is being purchased. So this is a purchase money security interest in a consumer good, which means that perfection happens automatically once the 3 elements of attachment occur. So yes, it not only has attachment occurred, ABC is also a perfected secured creditor, not just a secured creditor, because it happened automatically with the PMSI in consumer goods. How do we know it's a PMSI? Because the creditor is taking a security interest in what is being purchased. How do we know it's a consumer good? Because it says it's for personal consumption or use. You can lose perfection if the creditor got possession or perfection through possession of the collateral. If the creditor gives up possession of the collateral, the perfection will be lost. That was a tongue twister. Also, if you have a PMSI and a consumer good, if that's the only way you got perfection, a resale destroys that perfection. It doesn't destroy attachment, but it will destroy perfection. Also, taking the property to another state causes perfection to be. A lapse of time. Perfection by filing a financing statement lasts 5 years. So if you don't file a continuation statement before that 5-year period ends, the perfection will lapse. And then removing to the collateral to another state. Practice problem 3 is the same problem as we've been looking at, but the difference here is it asks, will ABC have a perfected secured interest in the television set if Jamie resells the TV to Peter? Now remember from the last problem that Jamie in this scenario purchased for personal consumption. ABC took a security interest and all the 3 elements of attachment were met, and they took a security interest in what was purchased. So this was a purchase money security interest in a consumer good, which means as soon as you had attachment, you also had perfection. However, now Jamie is reselling. If that's the only way through an automatic PMSI and consumer good that you got perfection, that perfection will be destroyed by resale. So as soon as Jamie resells to Peter, ABC is no longer a perfected secured creditor. That perfection is destroyed and they're only a secured creditor, so they become an unperfected secured creditor. So by the resale, it destroys ABC's perfection. Now, if they had filed a financing statement also in addition to getting it automatically through a PMSI and consumer goods, that would not have destroyed their perfection, because a financing statement perfection is not destroyed by a resale. It's only that automatic PMSI and consumer goods. So that's the answer there. Now, The priorities deal with who gets the collateral, who has the greater interest in the collateral when there's a fight over the collateral. So if you have, for example, a secured creditor, perfected secured would prevail over a just a secured creditor. Also, an unsecured creditor, unperfected secured creditor, which is the same as just a secured, and usually perfected over most buyers who don't purchase the collateral in the ordinary course of business, or basically they don't purchase it from merchants. So let's look at how that actually looks in general with buyers. So sometimes the issue comes up with buyers. So what that means is sometimes a buyer purchases uh, goods from a seller who is a debtor and owes a creditor, and the creditor has taken an interest in the inventory of that seller debtor. And so the question is, when that inventory is sold to the buyer, is the buyer going to be subject to that security interest, or another way of saying that, will the creditor be able to repossess the inventory, which is the collateral, from the buyer? So there will sometimes be a fight between a perfected secured creditor and a buyer. The way that works is it depends on what kind of buyer you actually have. If you're a buyer in the ordinary course of business, that means you purchase from a merchant. A buyer in the ordinary course of business will prevail over perfected and unperfected secured creditors. So, for example, if I was to go to, um, let's see, Best Buy, and I was to purchase a refrigerator, even if Best Buy's creditor had a security interest in that refrigerator, because Best Buy is a merchant, I'm a buyer in the ordinary course of business, which means that even if the creditor of Best Buy has a perfected secured interest in that refrigerator and any other inventory, I'm going to prevail because I am a buyer in the ordinary course of business. So it protects you. It's better to buy from a merchant. You have more protection. You don't have to worry about the creditors of your merchant seller, coming back and being able to repossess or take the collateral or have a greater interest in the collateral than you as the buyer. However, the rules are not the same. If you're a buyer not in the ordinary course of business, those buyers do not have priority over perfected secured creditors. So perfected secured creditor will prevail over a buyer not in the ordinary course of business, except with a PMSI and consumer good. The reason is because with you have a PMSI and consumer goods, if that's the only way that perfection happened and there's no filing, then what you have is, as soon as there's a resale, that destroys the perfection and the party becomes a secured creditor. So a buyer not in the ordinary course of business does not have priority over perfected secured creditors, except for a PMSI and consumer good when there's no financing statement filed. The buyer not in the ordinary course of business does have priority over unperfected secured creditors, assuming the buyer did not know about the security interests. Also, when you have a fight not between buyers but between creditors, this is what it looks like. Unsecured versus unsecured, neither party has any security interest nor any rights in the collateral. Unsecured versus secured, the party who is attached, who's the secured creditor, is going to prevail. They're going to have a greater priority in the collateral because they have an interest in it. Unsecured hasn't done anything. There's no attachment that has occurred. Secured versus secured, it will be whoever secured first, whoever got attachment first. Perfected secured versus secured is going to be perfected secured. And then perfected secured versus perfected secured, whoever perfected first. Problem 4. Sam is a merchant and is in the business of selling sailboats. Company A has a perfected secured interest in Sam's inventory of sailboats. Company A has filed a financing statement. Janice purchased sailboat from Sam. Will Janice be subject to Company A's security interest? Give the legal justification. So because Janice is a buyer in the ordinary course of business, because Sam is a merchant, she will not be subject to that security interest. She will have priority over all creditors, including perfected secured creditors. So the answer is no, she will not be subject to the security interest because she's a buyer in the ordinary course of business because she purchased from a merchant. The other thing is rights of parties after default. Um, the question becomes, if the debtor defaults on the loan, can the creditor repossess the collateral on its own? And the answer to that question is you don't need anybody to help you to repossess the collateral. You can do it on your own as long as it does not cause a breach of peace. If it causes a breach of peace, you have to go to court and you cannot use self-help measures. But as long as there's no breach of peace, you can use self-help to repossess as a creditor.